We're going to be planting one of our native rhododendrons today. So this is Rhododendron viscosum. It's just coming into bud now. And this is otherwise known as our swamp azalea. And I had just planted another one of these last year. I'll take you over there after we plant this one up. The other one I planted is actually quite small. This one, I'm glad, is quite sizable. Birds are pretty raucous this morning. Anyway, we really wanted to start rewilding this area. The half lake right now has a lot of great meadow sweets and some shrubbery around it, but we want to continue that theme. We have a lot of ducks and geese on the pond this year. It's like actually the first year that we saw some geese and ducks, and there's just not enough places for them to have cover for nesting sites. And this is one of the ways that we could actually do that. And if you've seen some of the earlier videos that I've done about native shrubbery and native plants, this is part of our process of actually trying to source some native plants and not cultivars. So these are straight species. And Rhododendron viscosum, along with other native rhododendrons, happen to be host plants for about 55 insects here within the area. You might have, different number of insects that are host insects in your area, but for ours, that's quite prominent. Now, these are gorgeous plants. They get 5 to 15 feet high. Most of them kind of stay within that kind of 5 to 7 feet high and wide range. But this is part of the reason why people maybe stopped planting their native rhododendrons, because they're actually quite large. So if you have a small backyard, a large bushy rhododendron might be too much. So the cultivated varieties are often like 3, 4, 5, maybe at max 6 feet high, but they usually stay quite small, and they've been bred smaller and smaller for people who have small backyards, who want like a diversity of plants in their backyard. So we're gonna plant this today. I kind of stuck a shovel right in this area, so the area has kind of dried out, but I'll talk to you a bit about the cultivation for these rhododendrons, because they do prefer a more humusy, moist soil, and they prefer to be acidic. So you'll see that I actually have a soil acidifier here, and I am going to be using that. We do have an acidic soil base, so it's just the pH is actually quite low.
How big does this tree get? Isn't this too close to that tree?
No, so actually these, we can always cut a branch or two. This one's dead already. But I will say that rhododendrons actually like to be not necessarily in direct light. You'll see them on the interstitials of forests, or just on the edges of forests and creeping into the forest. This is actually probably a perfect location for this, because it's, yeah, you're going to get some shade, but you can see that the leaves are not quite out yet. This tree is just about budding. This one's already getting into bud and will leaf out very soon. So we'll probably get that nice light. We get a nice light coming in here. And this one in particular, as the name would say, swamp azalea, prefers being in swampier areas, but it still wants a well-draining soil. It just wants to have moistness around its roots, and it has to be close to a water source. So we're gonna definitely put it around the pond areas, because that's an area where it can get actually good water. It could start putting its roots closer and closer to the pond as it wants. And this soil, when I was digging, I was like, oh, it's quite nice. I mean, it's nice and friable. It's a little dry right now. But, and you could tell that we have quite a bit of clay in here. I mean, we did some tests, and it's probably 24–25% clay. But still, clay maintains, clay has a lot of nice properties as well. But I am going to amend it a bit on top. This plant loves a more humusy soil, so I'm just gonna add some compost to the top. That can't hurt. And I am going to mulch it in as well to keep the roots cool and moist. And of course, we have all this great leafage down below from the trees, and that is always a benefit, because it keeps the roots down, it keeps the soil moist, and then eventually as it breaks down, it will become good soil. So this is a pretty large root ball. So I'm gonna go probably 2 times as large, and just like the right depth for it. I might hit some roots in here too, so I have to be mindful. And I'm not gonna amend really in the hole with any kind of compost or mulch, but I will add a bit of that soil acidifier, which also has some micronutrients as well. And the soil acidifier, again, is just to bring down the pH slightly as it grows. And I probably won't need to use a soil acidifier after that, but we'll see. We'll monitor the health of the plants that we actually plant in here. And you know, it's very interesting because I grew up in northeastern Pennsylvania, and which is just basically south of here. And it's like a strange line where we have so many rhododendron and mountain laurels in Pennsylvania. And then as soon as you get up to New York, not so much. And I think that really had something to do maybe with the glaciers coming through. And the glaciers did hit this area 14,000 years ago and really scraped off some of that topsoil. And then when you get down south, you don't have the glaciers that came through. And so the soil got a chance, the native soil got a chance to actually build up. And I think rhododendrons prefer kind of that deeper soil that didn't really get to develop in a lot of parts of New York State. One of the things you might want to do is just scuff the sides so it's easier for the roots to penetrate into the soil. Let's try this. That's about right. So let's get some of that soil acidifier. Soil acidifier is pretty good for any kind of ericaceous plants. So if you have like blueberries and things along those lines, they tend to need a really acidic soil as well. We have blueberries in our woods, so that goes to show you that we have acidic soil around this area. So if you read the back of this, so as a fertilizer, sprinkle 1/2 cup per 100 square feet. For new plants, use 1 1/4 cups. And for established plants, use 2.5 cups. Okay, so we're gonna do that. Oh, so this one has even a smaller root ball than it is. This is a technique that I think a lot of nurserymen and nursery women do, where they try to sell you a plant that's a little bit higher up. I mean, it is a larger plant, but it doesn't look like it rooted through.
Sell by weight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's too unfortunate. But you'll see a lot of the fibrous root systems here on the rhododendron as well, so you can see that. But that has happened to me before, and I had to get this online because to try to find our native rhododendrons, you have to do a little bit of searching, unfortunately, now, because everybody's so focused on the cultivated varieties. So let me just kind of do this. Some of this native soil and break this up. Oh, this leaf mold is perfect too. Just gonna step on this a little bit, secure it in so it's not wobbling about. If we're lucky, this might actually bloom this year. Well, I'm not gonna have this go to waste. All right, so let's do this. I didn't bring a measuring cup, so I'm gonna just take my gloved hand, and it says for new plants along the drip line, 1 1/4 cup. I think that's about good. So word of the wise, maybe bring a measuring cup if you want to be exact. Since we have this, I'm just going to add a little bit of compost to this. So this is just land and sea compost, and I have been using this in the garden. as our compost is just kind of getting its start. We just started our compost bin. All right. I'm also going to add some of this compost to the other one that I had planted last year because I noticed it had pretty bare earth around it. Finally, I have some mulch. Now with the mulch, I'm just gonna apply it around the drip line. I'm not gonna get too close to this because it could maintain too much moisture and perhaps rot it. Add some of this fine leaf mold. It's tucked in right really nicely. I'm just gonna water this in. One of the other benefits I think that we'll have when looking across Half Lake is that you'll see this in bloom. Oh, and I didn't mention the blooms are quite redolent. They smell a little clove-like, so they get these white trumpet flowers and they just attract a ton of pollinators. So I'm gonna be curious because we have a PJM rhododendron, which is a cultivar that's in front of our house, and that attracts, you know, hummingbirds and some pollinators here and there. But I'd love to kind of compare what one of our native rhododendrons does with some of the pollinators and whether they attract a little bit more. All right, let's go to the second one. So here's where I planted the other plant, but this is a different rhododendron. This is Rhododendron arborescens. And I, again, just wanted to start planting more of our native rhododendrons where we had them. So I'm just gonna do a little soil acidifier on this one. Here, and you can see that this area is a little exposed. I think what I did is when we took the honeysuckle out, the Japanese honeysuckle, we had a hole there and I was like, oh, perfect place where I could actually put a native plant. So that's exactly what I did. But I'm going to just give this some compost, nestle that in a bit better because this looks a little too bare. I'm going to water that in. I have some more native rhododendrons that are coming in as well, so we'll be planting them mostly around here, but we'll probably even plant them a little further up. And I have to say, they're really beautiful and we have the space for them, so, you know, why not? But those are two of our native rhododendrons. It's a start, and we'll definitely be doing more in the coming weeks.
The garden is changing rapidly now that the season is warming up, so stay tuned here for progress reports. And as always, your support of the channel is appreciated. 10% of our Google AdSense revenue is being reinvested back into the Finger Lakes community, and that's matched by our partners over at Espoma Organic. Happy gardening, and we'll see you in the next episode.